Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Kathy, you can hear me, I assume? Okay, great. Approval of the agenda. I believe there's no add-ons. Someone to move the motion I have here, the agenda be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Colburn, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. All in favor? It is carried. A declaration of interest and clear anytime you see fit during the meeting. Recommendation, I have a recommendation because of the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on September 16, 2020 be adopted. Someone make a motion, please. Moved by Councilor Finkel, second by Councilor Barton. Discussion, all in favor? Is carried. New business, we're down to unfinished business. I'd like to call the Committee of Adjustment together. Okay, I've done that. We had 3 applications for us. Consent B11 to 13 for Sarah Ann Marie Samela. I would like to, all the conditions for each one of the 3 reports are the same, so I would like to just read them once if it's okay to make adjustments. Will the planner please give the planning report on this file, please, Jen?
So, excuse me. This is an addendum report to PL 2020-09 that was presented to the committee back in February of 2020, so February of this year. The application is to create 3 residential lots in Campbell. Now, that's within the settlement area. The Committee of Adjustment did approve 3 severance applications in 2015, but they lapsed as the conditions of severance were not met. So the report shows the proposed lot dimensions. So the 3 lots, 2 of them are slightly deficient at just under an acre. The lots are within the they meet the requirements of the zoning, and they will be privately serviced, so wells and septic system. When this went to a public hearing, residents in the area expressed concerns about drainage and well water supply. Through this process, the applicant did have his engineers attend the public meeting that was for council as well as the public hearing for Committee of Adjustment, and they provided information and answered questions to satisfy council and committee's concerns regarding drainage as well as water supply. So in approving applications for severance, the committee looks to the provincial policy statement and the county official plan. Does the proposal comply with those documents? So as you see in the planning report, the review indicates, the policy review indicates that it does comply. So the provincial policy statement does identify that that full municipal services are the preferred option. Campbell doesn't have full municipal services. All of those properties are septics and wells. But the provincial policy statement does provide that that individual services can be permitted, provided site conditions are suitable for the long-term provision of such services with no negative impacts. So the documentation that's come forward from the applicant is indicating that these 3 newly created lots should be sufficiently serviced. So the residents in the area they were very concerned about the availability for waters for wells and then the drainage. So Mr. Taylor, who is the applicant representing the owner, his engineers came forward. They submitted a hydrogeological review, and the review supports up to 2 residential units per lot. And then with each lot, there'd be an engineer grading plan. The former director of operations, when the application first came through, evaluated the the proposal and was satisfied that what the engineer had proposed was sufficient for development in Campbell. And then our recently our Director of Operations, just here in October, provided comments that, in his opinion, what was being proposed was sufficient for the area. The township is recognizing that there are some drainage issues in Campbell because of a township ditch that I think what they're saying is that the back of the ditch is lower. So instead of the water flowing through the township ditch and following the proper drainage channel, it's actually going onto the Salmella property, which is contributing to the drainage issues for that lot. So the Director of Operations has visited the site, discussed with the engineer as well as an adjacent property owner that there are measures in place to mitigate the drainage issue. And so with the engineer's proposed grading and drainage plan on the property, as well as the township's drainage or ditching works, that drainage won't be an issue because of the development of those 3 lots. There still will be drainage issues in Campbell, but in terms of this development, it's not going to contribute or exacerbate the situation if these plans are followed. The Conservation Authority did provide comments for this property. So we always look at natural hazards and natural heritage features when we're evaluating applications. We're directed to by the provincial policy statement as well as the county official plan. They note that the proposal does alter drainage patterns in the developed area. They note that a detailed grading plan was prepared by GM Blue Plan Engineering demonstrating proposed grades and drainage patterns. Drainage is largely proposed to be directed to the Kimball Rock Road ditch. They are satisfied with the proposed approach and recommend that site-specific development of the lots demonstrate how they conform to the grading and drainage plan. And they're recommending that there'll be effectively site plan agreements with the township for each of those lots to be registered on title so that future owners are aware that there is a grading and drainage plan and they have to abide by it. It has to be implemented and it has to be maintained. So staff support that recommendation, and we have included a requirement for a site plan agreement in the proposed severance conditions. So the proposal here for the 3 lots will also require the property to be rezoned from planned development and to residential. And then another part of the application is to request additional permitted uses. So that would include permitting a semi-detached dwelling, a duplex dwelling house, and a secondary suite. And those would be additional permitted uses in the R1 zone, because currently it only permits a single detached dwelling. And by opening up the options for housing units, this application meets the county official plan as well as the PPS because they both support the provision of a variety of housing types, and that's to meet needs of residents and as well as to provide options for new rental accommodation and to create affordable housing options for people. And then, as we know, secondary suites aren't permitted as of right in the Georgian Bluffs official plan in settlement areas. That is something that we will be changing in our official plan in order to comply with the Planning Act as well as the county official plan. In other areas of the township, so in a rural area, you are permitted a secondary suite as of right, provided you meet the zone criteria. So that's something that will be changed in the future. So we did the initial planning report lists the agencies and that comment on this, because the comments from the Conservation Authority came after the report submission deadline. They were not presented to the Committee of Adjustment previously. So in the February 19th comments, Grace Hall knows no objection to the approval of the applications. And They recommend that site-specific development of the proposed lots demonstrate how they conform with the grading and drainage plan provided by GM Blue Plan Engineering, and that it be implemented through development agreements with the township. They wish to be notified of any decision rendered with respect to these files. And then I have also included the November 16th, 2019 comments from the Operations Department, as well as the October 7th, 2020 comments from the Director of Operations, both of them noting that that the proposal, the engineering proposed for the development meets the township's standards, and the township was satisfied with what was proposed. So we did previously the comments were provided by Stephen Van Eck, Ross and Karen Thwaites, and Willie Waterton. They provided written comments that were presented to council at the Committee of Adjustment hearing in February. Oral submissions were made by Mr. Don Edwards, Mr. Harold Krause, Mr. Terry Nickel, Ms. Pam Dingard, and Mrs. Leanne Sutherland. And they did indicate concerns related to water supply and drainage in the area. We have not received any comments since, other than the Conservation Authority comments, since the last public meeting and public hearing to consider these applications. So just in conclusion, I'm recommending approval of the applications. There's 3 applications there to create 3 lots. The Township Operations Department has been on site. They've reviewed the drawings, they've reviewed the plans, they've discussed with the developers, engineers, and they've been on site and spoken to residents. The communication from them indicates that that drainage can be addressed. And staff have included, as I mentioned, a requirement to enter into a site plan agreement as a condition of severance for all 3 lots. That will be registered on title to each of the properties. So it has been demonstrated that that the applications, the 11, 12, and 13 of 2017 are consistent with the provincial policy statement, the County of Grey official plan, and the Township of George Bluffs official plan. My recommendation is to approve the applications.
Thanks, Jen. Are there any concerns raised that the committee members wish to discuss? Ryan, I cannot see any concerns. None? Okay, Deputy Mayor Carlson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the planner, and I'm not sure if maybe this is a question for you or not, Jen. To do with the culverts that are going to be installed, I noted that the previous operations director didn't think we need to do that, but now the last one does. So just a question about when that those culverts would be put in. Would that happen this fall, or is that something that would happen closer to when the development is taking place?
So that will not happen this fall. That will happen in and around the time that the development will occur for the properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Grant, go ahead.
Thank you. Jenna, just a quick question on, I know they've passed all the criteria for slope and development of water drainage and stuff. My question is, I know they developed that for the lands that are there. What's the scenario if those lands, we have an issue moving down the road with water? Like what's going to take place from where their property ends to the ditch or to the culvert to cross the road? Who's going to be involved in that?
So when the property owner comes forward with a building permit, they have to provide a grading and drainage plan in compliance with that overall plan that's been put forward. Once the property is built out and landscaping has been done, then the property owner's engineer provides a certification that the works were completed in accordance with what was approved. So in the site plan agreement, there is an option to make a note that, just to reiterate, that the lot cannot be altered from the drainage patterns that were approved. From just a general process perspective, if someone has certification on the property, the engineer's gone in and certified that the works were completed as proposed. If they go in after the fact and they alter that and they flood the neighbor out, then it's a civil matter.
I guess, I had the same question what Councillor Pringle has, and I understand that there's a drainage plan for each lot to look after the water in each lot. But my question is, they're responsible only until it comes to the municipal road, and then for the actual outlet, who's responsible for that? It's gonna be the township? Like, say the water comes to the lots, and they're draining towards the road, to the ditch. In this particular area, there's no ditch, it's hard surface. So it runs down the road and goes to the ditch, and it's supposed to go away down according to the stream. So who's responsible for that? Is that illness gonna come back on the township if this does not work out?
So my understanding from the Director of Operations is the township is going to do some work along the ditch to make sure that doesn't happen. So the developer is responsible for the works on site, and then the township will go in and fix the ditches that we already have that aren't operating properly. And then there are some properties down the road where there will be four driveway culverts will be installed, and I guess, excuse me, approximately 150 meters of ditching that the township is going to go in and repair and bring up to a standard.
So I guess our drainage engineer, Ian Erickson, has looked at this for the township, and that's how we can comment.
It was reviewed by both operations, the directors of operation. Ian Erickson is the drainage superintendent for Georgia West, but he is also the drainage. He designed the plan for this, so he's acting for the developer as well.
Okay. Councilor Pringle, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I do believe it does. I just, again, my concern is, it's great, we've got the water contained at the 3 properties. It's one of each property, who's gonna look after it, right? So, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, as long as Ian Erickson's confident and he can get rid of the water, I'm probably good.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from any other committee member? Councilor Bartlett?
If I remember correctly, yeah, the water goes out into the ditch, which goes down the side of the road, but then the water was actually going on private property once it got down there. So where is this water going once it goes down the road?
So in the report, I did quote the Director of Operations who met with the Sutherlands on site, and the water is actually going to be flowing onto what is technically their property, and there is there's no concern by those property owners, according to the Director of Operations.
So it's eventually going to end up on private property.
Yes.
Jim, is this drain on the private property considered as a drainage outlet, and that's why?
Yes, and I was about to say that.
Yeah. That's why, correct. Okay. Grant, go ahead.
So in that scenario, Jen, on the private property, then if there's work that needs to be done, we're gonna be doing it. Once it gets to private property, if that drain needs to be cleaned out to the outlet.
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I need the Director of Operations to address that.
And I don't feel comfortable answering either. I can assume, but,
Right.
okay?
Mhm.
If I see no other discussion, I have a recommendation here for each one of the lots. And as I said before, there's 7 conditions for each lot. With the committee's permission, I would like to read the conditions once on the first application for each one of the lots. The recommendation is that severance application B1117 for Sarah Ann Marie Samela be approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner enter into a site plan agreement with the township to address grading and drainage concerns as specified in the comments provided by CSCA dated February 19, 2020. 2, that the site plan agreement be registered on title to the lands and the restoration cost be paid by the applicant. 3, that a reference plan be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk or exemption from reference plan be received from the land registry office. 4, that pursuant to section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certification of consent be affixed to the deed within 1 year of giving of the notice of decision. Note, section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of certificate, that is stamping of the deeds. 5, that the applicant pays the applicable consent certification fee at the time of certification of the deeds. 6, that the applicant pay 5% part-time dedication in accordance with the Planning Act. 7, that the zoning bylaw amendment be enforced in effect. Do I have someone to move it on the floor, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Colburn. If there's no discussion, all in favor? It's carried. We move on to our next recommendation. It is recommended that severance application B1217 for Sarah Ann Marie Samela be approved subject to the following conditions, and the conditions are the same as what I just read. Do I have someone to move it with the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Bartlett. Is there any discussion of the motion? All in favor? It is carried. And our last recommendation is that severance application B1317 for Sarah Ann Marie Samela be approved subject to the following conditions. The same as the first application, same 7 conditions. Someone to move it on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Pringles, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? It is carried. I believe that is all the applications we have here today. I'll now for we've already done the voting. I guess I'll ask for an adjournment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlson, second by Councilor Thompson. That we adjourn, all in favor? It's carried. Thanks, everybody.